All right. Good morning, everybody. And what a good morning it is. Banner 18 is now officially up in the rafters. The new season has begun. And goddamn, if it wasn't a great start to the season, NBA basketball is back. We're here to talk about Banner Night. We're going to talk about the demolition the Celtics put down last night against the New York Knicks. And then Jaylen Brown, a sit-down exclusive interview with Stephen A. We'll give you our thoughts on that and more. Coming up next, you guys know what the deal is. Scream with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition, a banner edition, if you will, of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today, as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. And Greg, can you give me your best Larry David impression to explain last night?
Pretty good.
Pretty damn good. What a night it was. Banner 18 is up in the rafters. We're going to talk about that. We're going to give you a breakdown of Celtics Knicks. For those of you not watching on YouTube, we do have some clips that we're going to be playing. So if you're listening to it and you want to see the visuals, go check us out on YouTube. Make sure you guys are subscribed to us there. We'll be doing this a lot when we have day after games that we're breaking down and we have clips available. We are going to use them, so just want to make sure you guys know. So we'll definitely be getting into a breakdown of what was almost, or was a record tying, but almost a record-breaking performance from the Celtics last night. And then at the end of this podcast, we want to talk about Jaylen Brown sitting down with Stephen A. Smith. And as a quick reminder, Saturday night following Celtics Pistons, Bleacher Report live, me, Greg, Bleacher Report app. We're going to be right there right after that game ends to break it all down. So if you don't have the Bleacher Report app, go download it. And once you download it, follow the Celtics. Come kick it with your boys. I'm sure we're going to get some new audience members. Greg, I like when we go on there. We get roasted a little bit every now and then when we go on Bleacher Reports. I honestly fucking love it. I think it's great. It kind of energizes me in those moments.
Yeah, no, for sure. Will, I have a question for you. I'm going to play a little clip. You worried at all about the New York Knicks?
Worried about the Knicks at all? Worried about the Knicks? Huh? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't use the word worried.
What an amazing response. I wouldn't use the word worry. And
I think that applies to everybody. The laugh is so disrespectful. It's so great. He's just like, really? You're going to ask me if I'm worried about the Knicks? We just won the title, bro. We just won the title.
Oh, my God. What a night it was last night, Greg. And let's start here. We're going to get to the game here in just a few minutes. We have a lot of clips that we want to break down as the Celtics nearly break the NBA record on opening night for three-pointers made, and certainly feels like Missoula ball is going to be in full effect this year. Real quick, Greg, do you know? So when the Celtics were one shot away from breaking the record, do you know how many shots they missed down the stretch last night in a row?
I would say at least 10. I know there was like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
It was 8+ minutes.
I would say they went
0 for 13. 0 for 13. 13 straight misses. So we'll get to that in a minute here. But of course, last night it was a little bit about tradition and ceremony as Banner 18 goes to the rafters. Everybody gets their rings, and a couple of cool moments from this, Greg. You know, this is one of the areas where I think being a Celtics fan is so different from most of the rest of the NBA is the tradition, the culture that goes along with it. And I think the Celtics do such a great job of connecting eras as much as they can. You had, as the banner's going up, you bring out Kuz. He's kind of the connection to that Red Auerbach, Bill Russell era. Then you have Cedric Maxwell that's in there as well, of course, representing that Bird, McHale, Parrish, DJ era. And then you have the modern era, which is, kind of our era here of the big three of Paul Pierce, KG, and honestly, shout out to Ray Allen. I'm so happy when Ray Allen comes back because he gets so forgotten and lost in that lore of the big three because of the way things ended. And I get it, but it made me so happy when he came back for KG's retirement, when he's here for this. Like, Ray needs to be honestly, Ray sacrificed the most out of anybody on that team. like people, I don't think, especially like younger Celtics fans, might not realize like Ray Allen on the Sonics and the Bucks was such a different player. Like he wasn't just a 3-point specialist. Like that dude had handle, he had hops, he could get to the mid range. He had a whole array of elements to his game that he put to the side to make that big 3 work. So I love seeing him back. And then getting to connect that to this squad with the Jays and Al Horford getting his ring made me a little emotional to see my guy get his ring. What else just stood out to you from that? I know you were running a little bit late yesterday when we were watching this, so you caught up on some of the clips.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout to people that are tuning in live here really quickly. Shout out to Landon. Shout out to Steve on the East Coast. I don't have the Snuggie today, Landon, but the Snuggie is still there. You know, the bathrobe is still there. So we're definitely going to be bringing that back for the late nights. This morning, you know, I wanted to rock a little Black Sheep Optimists, little Celtics championship hat. So, but anyways, well, back to your point. What stood out to me, I think it's just like the joy that we saw on everybody's faces, the emotion that comes with it, you know, all the quotes that came out after the game about how people were feeling during the ceremony. And Jaylen, we're going to talk about Jaylen a lot on this pod because of the Stephen A. Smith interview. But when he was just, you know, they asked him like, what were you feeling? And he was like, the pain, the joy, the embarrassment, the disappointment. He was just like feeling all the emotions over the past 8 years of his career, culminating in Banner 18 being raised to the rafters. But for those that maybe didn't catch the Banner ceremony like me, I didn't see the whole thing because I was out doing some wedding venue tours, which didn't go well. But I just want to play a clip from Jason Tatum addressing the TD Garden crowd right before the game. So this is about a 33-second clip here. So enjoy.
This is special. Honestly, man, on behalf of me, my teammates, the organization, we couldn't have did it without you last year. So let's enjoy this moment together. I can honestly say to the best fans in the world, let's do it again.
I think my favorite part about that clip, Will, is you can hear like a lone voice in the crowd say, do it again. And then right after that, Tatum says, let's do it again. But it's great because you hear the emotion in his voice. His voice is kind of cracking throughout those 30 seconds. And he said in the postgame that he had some planned remarks that he wanted to say to the crowd, but he just got overwhelmed. And he just did a very human thing in that moment when the emotion was overwhelming him, where you could tell he was almost about to cry, where you do the thing where you just like look up into the air. You know, I don't know why that's.
Oh, it was awesome, dude. Right? It was. I think it worked out better that he wasn't able to do whatever his planned remarks were, because like you said, you felt the authenticity of what he was saying. And I think that pause killed. Like my wife Lorena was watching that part of the game before you came over, and she was like, she was like, man, he's really good at that. Like, cause it felt like you were watching like a WWE, you know, like ring entrance, right?
Promo, yeah.
Where exactly, like it had that feel to it. And so I thought that was an awesome moment. I was really glad that, you know, JT got to do that, obviously with everything this offseason, you know, didn't win the finals MVP, but it's like, it's very clear, like JT, you know, JT and JB are co-faces of this team, but like JT is the guy that, you know, gets that recognition as like the face.
Although Jaylen Brown at the free throw line getting very loud MVP chants.
Hey man, a lot of love going around to this team. A lot of love going around for this team. So unbelievable moment. Did you get a chance to catch some of Joe Mazzulla's quotes of him kissing the floor?
What does a TD Garden floor taste like? What does the parquet taste like, Will?
Tastes like blood, baby. Tastes like blood. What a madman Joe Mazzulla is. I love that everyone is so in on his eccentricities and quirk.
Did you read the Mark Spears article, the interview with him?
No, I have not read this article.
Okay, so make sure you go check that out. And for those of you that are listening to the pod, Mark Spears did a great sit down with Joe Mazzulla. I think he actually went to Mazzulla's home to do the sit down with him, a full Q&A. they address a lot of things. You know, they talk about Tatum in the Olympics. They talk about Jaylen. They talk about the famous clip about Joe Mazzulla being one of the first two black head coaches in the finals. And he says, how many of those were Christians? And they go into all of that and Joe Mazzulla's identity growing up half Italian, half black in Providence in an Italian Catholic neighborhood. So it's a really good interview just to like learn a little bit more about Joe Mazzulla. And the more you just peel back the layers of that man, the more interesting it gets. And I'm here for all of it.
Yeah, we're here for all of it. Joe Mazzulla, a unique individual. Banner night, man, just good vibes, good times. I'd like to say, can we get a ring that fits Al Horford? Did you see? So they had the audio. He was mic'd up during it, and he was saying how it's too big. Did you see why it's too big for his?
Because he had a mangled finger when they took the measurements.
Exactly. They did the measurements apparently like right after the finals, and his finger was all effed up. So hopefully we can get that resized. Although I don't know why Joe Mazzulla's is also apparently too
My
big. He's never gonna
favorite
wear
part
it, but
of every podcast is when you randomly decide to censor yourself.
yeah, I just
It's so great. It's so great.
I don't know. There's times where I'm just like, hey, I should be more selective, and so I go with F instead of fuck. But it is what it is.
It makes me chuckle. I enjoy it.
No, it's good. I like it. Now I'm just gonna be doing it for you. Is trying to find ways to censor myself. But with that, let's transition to the game last night because this was an absolute beatdown. And just for the hell of it, let's just play this one more time. Let's see, how should we feel about the New York Knicks after last night?
Worried about the Knicks at all? Worried about the Knicks? Huh? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't use the word worried.
So disrespectful, but I love it.
Play that all year.
Great. It's that's going to be used.
Yeah, we're leaving
times,
that in the studio video clip.
Yeah. That will be used many times. But Celtics win on opening night, 132-109. As we joked about, they hit 29 threes with 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Had a chance to break the NBA record and go 0 of 13. But amazingly, Greg, going 0 of 13 only dropped their 3-point field goal percentage to 47.5% on the night. Such an insanely hot start from the Celtics, clearly feeling the vibes from the banner presentation and the ring presentation right into the game. Greg, I think this was a massive team effort. This was an unreal Jason Tatum night. Gotta raise my hand here as guys that were worried about the jump shot. You can erase that. The 37% in the preseason last night, 8 of 11 from 3. I'm good. We're all set on that department. We don't need to rehash that conversation. But where do you want to go with this, man? Because the Knicks were the hot team coming in here, and the Celtics just dismantled them pretty quickly. Now, I will say this real quick before we go into Tatum. The Knicks are not going to be the same team when we play them in February, right? Like the Knicks are clearly a team that is still looking for their. So we're having some fun with them right now, but I still think this Knicks team has a lot of potential, and they just got to kind of figure out the kinks as to who they are with the changes that they've made and some of the injuries that they have. And it's going to take a little bit, but clearly the product we saw last night, I don't think it's going to be the same as what we see later in the season. But having said that, let's go to Jason Tatum. And Greg, let me give you his stat line real quick, then I'm going to turn the floor over to you here. But Jason Tatum in 30 minutes last night, 37 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds, 14 of 18 from the field, 8 of 11 from the 3-point line, 1 steal, 1 block, and only 1 turnover. An MVP-like performance, if you will, for Jason Tatum.
Shout out to Cool Genuine Phil joining the chat. Appreciate you, Phil, for tuning in live. All of you guys that are here, drop your comments in the chat. How did you feel about Jason Tatum's performance last night? Have you also erased all concern and all worry from your mind about Jason Tatum's jump shot? We got a comment here from Steve on the East Coast. He says, I need a larger sample size on Tatum's shot selection, particularly the dribble, step back, 3-point shot. I feel you on that, Steve. I know Steve is not a fan of the over dribbling into step back threes in general. I know the way Steve feels there. But Tatum in general was awesome last night, especially in the first quarter. When you think about Jason Tatum, historically has not necessarily been a super aggressive first quarter player, right? It's normally Jaylen Brown who comes out looking for his shots. I got
Even the
some,
start to the season, like the first quarter of the season, this is usually
yeah.
I mean, I know it's only one game, but that's the slow season for Jason Tatum.
Exactly. So I got some stats here for you, Will, about Jason Tatum. Last year in the first quarter, he averaged 6.8 points, 2.3 rebounds, and 1.4 assists. So he averaged 9 minutes per game in the first quarter. He averaged 4.8 field goal attempts in the first quarter and 0.8 3-pointers made in the first quarter. Last night, he played the entire first quarter, which was great. I like to see Joe Mazzulla riding the hot hand there. I don't know if that was planned, if Jason Tatum is now going to be playing the entire first quarter instead of coming out at the 6-7 minute mark like he had been all throughout his career. Maybe this is him, Mazzulla, riding the hot hand.
In the playoffs, they did that a little bit too, right? Where Tatum would play the so maybe it's left over from that. But yeah, it's interesting to see these potentially new substitution.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if it's not a new substitution pattern, it's just good to see Mazzulla recognizing that Tatum had it going and let me just let the guy cook. So he played the entire first quarter last night. He had 15 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and he was 5 of 7 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3 in the first quarter last night. Came out looking for that shot, and he was on fire, man. It was great to see.
Yeah, Jason Tatum was unbelievable last night. And so I know we haven't done it just because it's kind of exhausting doing the whole can Jason Tatum win an MVP thing. And like we've kind of hinted at it, like it's going to be tough for him to win this year because I think of just the narrative around it of like, hey man, you have an all NBA guy in Jaylen Brown, how much everyone thinks of Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps comes back, and like, but there is a path. There is a path to it, and it starts with last night because last night was the type of games where if there is a world in which Jason Tatum can win MVP this year. I'm not talking about first career. I'm talking about just specifically this year. It's these type of games where it makes everyone feel foolish for questioning if this guy's top 5, right? Like, doesn't need to get a haircut to be top 5. He's just top 5. No
yeah, he had a nice haircut though. It was like some prime Allen Houston hair. That was pretty nice.
When does Tatum ever not have a nice haircut? I don't think I've ever seen Tatum like. Has he ever taken a photo since he's been in the NBA where you're like, man, Tatum needs a haircut? Like that doesn't exist. You know, that dude is always primed when it comes to his hair, whether it's the shortcut or the curls or whatever it might be. But Tatum was unreal last night, man. Last night felt like kind of, and this is something he had mentioned leading into the game. This is what I think could be a potential X factor for the Celtics in general this season. Is he feels like there's a weight lifted off his shoulders after getting that championship last year. And this is something that you could tell, especially at certain points in big moments, closing games, in the playoffs, and they overcame it all, but you could tell there's a weight to this of being Jason and Jaylen. Can they do it together? You know, the Celtics and the lore that comes around with it. And, you know, despite the fact that these guys were 27, 26, 26, 25, being in all these conference finals and finals, they were getting the scrutiny as if they were 32, 33 years old and had never been able to do it like a James Harden or a Karl Malone back in the day. Like they were already wearing those scars on them. And so now that you can play so freely with that championship in your back pocket, what does that do for your mentality, for your mindset, for your game? And if last night was any evidence of what that can do, and you add in the continuity of this team and the clear feel, which I know you have a couple of clips queued up here that just, you know, even for like we harped on this a bunch in the preseason, guys like Luke Cornett just starring in their role and what that does to open up, like this is trouble for the rest of the league. And this is potentially, you know, it's one game. So I'm not going to sit here and, you know, get on my high horse and be like, yeah, Tatum, I'm back in Tatum for MVP. Like I still think it's a long shot for Tatum to win MVP this year, but last night was an MVP performance. And that's the type of game that's going to stick out and be like, are we really going to not give this guy some consideration for MVP if they win 60 plus games and he's putting up double doubles like this? It's going to make people reconsider.
Yeah, and I think not only was it the 3-point shot falling for Tatum last night, it was the vision that he had. As I mentioned, he had 5 assists in that first quarter,
Yeah.
and some of the passes this dude was making throughout the game were just like mind-boggling. So I got one pass here queued up. This is Tatum coming off of a pick and roll to his left hand, and he has Derek White kind of lifting up from the corner into the opposite slot, and he just throws this left-handed like hook pass on a freaking rope right into Derek White's shooting pocket.
I went to upload this and it was already here, and I was very happy to see that.
Come on, bro. I told you I was uploading clips. You think I was going to miss that one? So I'm gonna play this here. Jason Tatum with an absolute dime to Derek White.
Here is Cornette. He signed an extension this offseason. Played for 14, second stint with the Celtics. White, he'll launch a three. Another one.
Well, what did Coach Mazzulla said?
My favorite part about that is that Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller do not acknowledge how ridiculous of a pass that was.
They were already just resigned to how absurd the night was, and they were like, yeah, I guess it makes sense.
That was an insane pass. Like Luke, who was an amazing screener last night. I tweeted something earlier from our Green with Envy account, Green Envy Pod. Follow us on Twitter at Green Envy Pod. If you're not already following us, what are you doing? Jason Tatum and Luke Cornette had a lot of great action. Luke actually had 5 screen assists last night for 14 points. And a lot of it had to do with him just stepping up into actions with Jason Tatum. And that was just a beautiful screen. I don't even know if he gets credit for that because technically Tatum doesn't score off of that, but Luke's screen allows Tatum to get the room to make the pass to Derek White. And it was just a beautiful pass.
Yeah, it's a beautiful pass, and you could tell in that moment when you look at that Knicks defense, they're already at a point they don't know what to do. I don't know if you caught Josh Hart's comments afterwards. They got to steroid test those guys. I've never seen anything like that. That was Josh Hart's comment, but you can see that I think it was Jericho Sims who was guarding Luke Cornette. He's like, do I go double? And he kind of takes a step towards Tatum. And as soon as Tatum sees that, the back end kind of squeezes in a bit. Tatum, just no hesitation. Left-handed, basically hook pass across the court, right into Derek White's shooting pocket. The accuracy of that pass is also what makes it just so amazing. And, there was a couple times last night where, because Tatum is Tatum and he was, he's 14 of 18, he was on fire last night. Knicks went to say, we got to find a way to double team him. Jason Tatum, you just can't double team Jason Tatum anymore, right? Like 2-3 years ago, you could get Tatum out of a rhythm. You could force him to take some bad shots maybe, or, he wouldn't be able to make that next level pass. So now it's whether you need him to make the hockey pass or you need him to make the great pass. He has the capability to do both. I'm really interested looking at Jason Tatum for this year to see, does he finally become a guy that's, up around 5-6 assists a game? Like, I think it's entirely possible because he's basically the point guard of this team. Like we've talked a bunch about like positions not really mattering. And, theoretically Derek White and Drew Holiday are one of them is probably the traditional point guard of this team. But the reality is, and we saw it in the playoffs, Jason Tatum is the main ball handler. He is going to be the guy that is creating. He's the playmaker, right, if you will, on this team. And that clip was a great example of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great examples of Tatum drawing extra help. And the Knicks, they were trying to do a lot, even early in the game. They went zone for a couple possessions. They went to a 2-3 when Cat was in the game. They flipped that to a 3-2 at times. And Tatum just took advantage of whatever defense was being thrown his way. Shout out to our guy, Celtics Way, guy or girl. I don't know actually what Celtics Way is. But he says Tatum playmaking skills are great. Also, Celtics Way says, let's see, had one more comment. JT taking the media disrespect personal. Great start for him. Totally agree, Celtics Way. I've got some extra clips here pulled up. This one here, you mentioned Jason Tatum drawing the attention of the defense. So part of having a high IQ, and we've talked about this before, is not making those crazy passes like we just saw, right? That's high level, that's skill. But sometimes it's just being very simplified in your approach. So one play I have here pulled up is Derek White, who the broadcast actually mentioned. Derek White, one of the things he wanted to work on in the offseason was his ability to be a better screener and a better short roll creator. So here's a great example of two coming to the ball with Tatum. Derek White and Tatum go inverted screen at the top of the key. Derek White into the short roll. Tatum with a very simple pass to White, who hits a floater in the lane over some weak contest.
Shot clock at 6. Bridges there. Screen is set into White. Screen roll. Easily done.
You hear Kevin Harlan, easily done.
Yeah, I was like, Kevin Harlan explained that perfectly. Easily done. Kevin Harlan, great on the call, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome. But those are the types of plays where, as you mentioned, if Tatum has it going from the perimeter, you have no option but to send 2 to the ball, and Tatum's keeping it very simple. I got another play here. This is Tatum off of a live dribble, kind of attacking a gap to his left hand, and Jaylen Brunson. I couldn't tell if they were in a zone or not, but Jaylen Brunson definitely is overhelping, and the Jason Tatum, Derek White chemistry is just unmatched in this game.
White, Brown, Horford, Holiday, and Tatum. That's the Celtic 5. White. 2 threes to start the second half for Boston, and they've got their biggest lead tonight over New York.
And we talked a lot about Tatum just coming out with crazy confidence with his shot. Derek White was firing away from 3 all night, and he looked like he was picking up exactly where he left off last year with his shot.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read you the starters last night and their 3-point statistics. So we had Jaylen Brown, 5 of 9 from 3. Jason Tatum, 8 of 11 from 3. Al Horford, 3 of 5 from 3. Derek White, 6 of 10 from 3. Drew Holiday, 4 of 6 from 3. That's insane. That's
well, we were watching the game with our buddy Lipsack that we always talk about here on the pod, who's a big Knicks fan, and he was just like, what? Like, what the fuck?
What do we do?
Like, what are we supposed to do here?
Like, if it wasn't for Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser trying to carry the bench unit to get the record, Peyton Pritchard was 1 of 9, Sam Hauser was 2 of 7. Like that's it right there. Like they were shooting above 60% until the 0 of 13, and then it dropped it down to 47.5%. Like, just an incredible shooting display. And part of that is, I think, in that last clip that you showed, Greg, I mean, it was such a stark contrast of just a team that is, I don't even know what the word for beyond confident is in who they are as a team, but just knowing every little bit of who they are down to the most minute detail. Last night felt like that was the Celtics team. And obviously, I mentioned before, the Knicks were a team trying to figure themselves out. The Celtics knew on both ends of the floor, and specifically the offensive side. I think defensive side, when the game's 30 points apart, like, you just kind of get a little bit looser. Like, it is what it is. And not that they play bad defense, but the offense was just so connected on a string at every moment. And something that I thought that was interesting when the game first got started, and it became very clear offensively, the game plan was, let's attack Karl-Anthony Towns. And that's going to be a consistent theme that the Knicks are going to have to figure out is teams. Yes, you have Wingstop and Josh Hart, and those guys are going to be great defensively, but you have 2 weak links. You've got Jaylen Brunson and you've got Karl-Anthony Towns, and the Celtics made it very apparent from the jump. The first, I think, 3 or 4 buckets the Celtics scored were all directly going at Karl-Anthony Towns, whether it was a screen and then Jason Tatum was pulling up for that 3-point shot of the drop coverage, or it was Derek White attacking the paint, or even just Cat trying to protect the paint, so sagging off Al Horford, just the simple pass. Like you said, Greg, it's not always going to be some intricate play. It's all right, you want to sag off Al Horford? Well, this is the reason that we go 5 out. This is why we do what we do and we play Missoula ball. If you think that's your best option, Al's going to go 3 of 5 from 3-point range. And so he's going to knock this shot down. So I thought it was really interesting for the Celtics to not wait around to go for that and just immediately take it to the teeth of Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about just like having the confidence to know that you are going to be able to get by and get a bucket on the person that's covering you, even if they're not like a terrible defender. I wouldn't call Towns a terrible defender, but he's not. He's an average defender, I'd say.
Listen, as someone who tries hard on defense, but knows when they see it in the person's eyes that has the ball that they're not scared of me. Like, I know that I can play pretty solid defense, but they're probably still going to make a bunch of shots because they just aren't scared. They know that they can get shots over me. I've seen that look. I know what that feels like. It's not great. It doesn't feel good, but I know exactly what it means. It's like, I can still play good defense. Someone can tell me, hey man, good contest, but I know that individual is going to keep cooking me. And it's a rough feeling.
Yeah, I like what you said about the Celtics attacking Towns in different actions. It wasn't just on ball, although I do have a clip pulled up here where Jaylen Brown just sees Karl-Anthony Towns in front of him and just absolutely just pulls up from 3, but he does it with no fear in his eyes. But they put him in so many actions where the Knicks, as I mentioned in the first quarter, very quickly went to a zone because Towns couldn't be involved in any action on the perimeter. But I just want to play this clip of JB shooting a 3 in transition over Towns.
Allie, we thank you. Here comes Tatum. And it's off to Brown out there with Holiday. It's a 3 from Brown.
Picking up where they left off in that first half, a 3 by Jaylen Brown.
And as we mentioned, that's kind of becoming one of JB's patented moves where he hang dribbles with his right hand, fakes the attack to his right hand, and then steps back off that dribble. Very Luka Doncic-esque. And I think, with JB and JT cooking the way that they were last night, there's not much teams are going to be able to do. But one thing I did want to talk about, Will, is just some like basic actions that the Celtics were running. I'd love to try and, when we do have these pods where we have the clips pulled up, as you call me, the coach of the pod, right? I do want to try and get into a little bit more X's and O's, especially for our YouTube audience, because we're so appreciative of all the people that listen on the pod, but even more so like the YouTube community, although it's a smaller community, I think that they deserve more from us on the visual. So here I have pulled up and a couple actions that the Celtics were running last night, and I kind of want to explain what the actions are before we play the clips, because I don't have the arrows and the highlights and all that stuff. We just have the NBA.com clips. But one thing that they were running a lot just to get some very basic actions was what's called like a gut action. So if you think about the Celtics offense, right, they're typically in a 5-out where all 5 players are around the perimeter, but sometimes they go to these gut actions and these ram actions where somebody will be in the middle of the paint, and then a big man normally will come down and screen for them in the middle of the paint so that they kind of like zipper cut out through the top of the key. And the pass comes from the wing to the top of the key, and they kind of reset their offense. Oftentimes they go into a dribble handoff there or pick and roll there. But this is something they probably ran, I don't know, like 7 or 8 times in a row in the second quarter just to get some very easy looks. And then they started going to the ram action where Luke Cornett was receiving the gut screen and then going to set an on-ball screen. But I want to show you what the gut screen is here first, because I believe this involves Luke as well. And this is to a greater point that Luke Cornett, as I said earlier, was just great screening for Jason Tatum all night. So watch this play, watch the gut screen happen in the middle, flowing into a pick and roll for an easy bucket.
One member of that puzzle is missing. It's Kristaps Porzingis. He is slated to return in December. He's shooting, he's conditioning, but he has yet to do any contact work.
So you see Luke kind of setting that gut screen for Tatum and then flowing into the pick and roll with Luke. That was just a very easy offense that the Celtics ran multiple times last night. And then you'll see on this next play, hopefully the clip shows the ram screen, but I think it's Derek White or Drew Holiday screens down for Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett then comes up the middle of the paint and sets an on-ball screen for Tatum for a bucket.
So White with the Cornett screen, and here is Tatum. And his shot is good, his second 3 of the game.
And one thing that I'm going to play that clip one more time, because one thing I love about the ram screen is that the initial down screen creates space, right, for the screener, because a lot of times you want to make sure that the screener and their man are not like connected. You don't want the guy to be able to come up and be up to touch on the screen, right? You want them to kind of be sitting down on that drop. And with Luke, he's so good at sprinting into his screens. I think that's a point of emphasis for all the bigs on this team sprint into their screens, even the guards sprint into their screens. And then Luke, at the last second, you'll see he kind of comes up and then he flips the screen, which a lot of people call like a Varejao screen. So he'll come up and at the very last second, he looks like he's going to screen so Tatum can go right, but he flips the angle of the screen so Tatum can go left, and Tatum's able to step up into a wide open 3. So watch Cornett, how he sprints into the screen, and watch Cornett as he flips the angle of the screen at that last second.
So White with the Cornett screen, and here is Tatum. And his shot is good, his second 3 of the game.
And Tatum, I mean, the walk-in threes, if he's going to be hitting those all year, then, watch out NBA, because that's Jason Tatum, top 3 MVP right there.
Yeah, it seemed like a little bit of a test case last night of like, let's test it out if the shot is working. And it was certainly working last night. But I think one of the things that sticks out to me, Greg, and I like when you do these play breakdowns because you catch these things that I don't necessarily like. I catch them in a more layman's way. And so I like hearing the breakdown of it, which is why you're the coach of the podcast here. But one thing that really stands out to me in both those clips is they get the great looks, But, like you said, number one, they sprint to all actions, attention to detail, right? That's one thing that I think this team, and it feels like that stems from Missoula, is attention to every little detail and, the way that he goes about his coaching practices. But off of both of those looks, if you pause like from the time Tatum's about to shoot it, there's options, right? Like that's the thing that I think is that there's counters and there's options to it. Like there's multiple ways that play, if it were to continue to develop, especially in that first one that you showed with the gut screen, like Luke's going to be rolling down the middle wide open. If Tatum decides he wants to take one more hesitation dribble or take a step in, the lob's going to be right there for Luke Cornett. There's multiple actions that are happening, and so I think especially on a night where Jason Tatum has it cooking, you're just getting out of the way and you want Tatum to do his thing. But on nights where, and this is where I think in the past, certainly not necessarily last year, but within the last like 2 years or so, it's what happens if this shot isn't going, or what happens if we can't make all these threes. And you just, like I said, you can see it in real time when you watch those plays back. Okay, if the threes aren't going, there's still other options for this. And I wasn't sure how much time was left on the shot clock, but there still would have been other options to get multiple other looks through ball movement, through rescreens. And so I think that just speaks to, again, the attention to detail and the continuity that we're going to harp on a lot this year about the Celtics that separates them from just about everybody else in the league.
Yeah, and when they're in their typical 5-out, right, a lot of times what they do is they have like Tatum and White, or Tatum and Holiday, like any combination of anybody who's not the center in a little 2-man action on one side of the court. And then they have like that almost becoming a decoy action for double staggered actions on the backside, where you can set those double pin downs for somebody coming off of those wide pin downs for an easy shot. And, as Tatum continues to draw all the attention from the defense, if he's on the left side of the court with the ball, with Derek White in the corner, or with Peyton Pritchard in the corner with Jason Tatum, there's going to be so much attention, not only on them, but on the backside as well. When you have Derek White coming off of the double pin down, or Jaylen Brown coming off of the double pin down, where you can run the action, 2-man action with an empty side of the court, or the defense starts hugging over towards Tatum, and then you just run some action on the backside, and you can just get buckets all over the place. And the Celtics don't necessarily run too many plays, but they have a lot of actions that they flow into. So I got one more clip pulled up here, but I want to give a quick shout to Rob version 1, who left a couple comments for us. He said, good that you guys are doing more film breakdown. I agree, Rob. That's one thing that we're really trying to focus on when we do have the ability to pull up the clips, because we're probably not, if in case you've missed it, I just had a kid, and we're probably not going to be able to do too many of the post games. Although if you're just tuning in, we do have a post game on the Bleacher Report app directly after the game on Saturday. So make sure you're downloading the Bleacher Report app, follow the Celtics, and right when the Celtics beat the Pistons on Saturday, you should see Will and I on the Bleacher Report app giving a little breakdown. We won't be able to have the film breakdown because it's not available on NBA.com yet. But today, since we're recording it the day after the game, we do have the ability to talk about the film. And Rob also says if JT has a 50, 40, 90 year or close to it, he wins MVP, and that's hard to argue with. So this play right here, I believe what you'll see is Jason Tatum, as I mentioned, on the left side of the court with Derek White coming out of a double stagger on the opposite end of the court. So that double stagger screen basically is just if you think about somebody in the corner and then somebody going to set a screen for the guy in the corner, but it's actually 2 screens for the guy in the corner. So he comes off of the first screen away from the ball, and then the second one to create a little bit more space. And Derek White's he's so smart using these screens. You'll kind of see him read where his defender is, and he, rather than curl all the way off the screen, which a lot of times you'll see off those wide pin downs, he ends up staying out to the perimeter for a wide open 3-point shot. Something you're actually really good at, Will.
But they've had no answer at guarding that 3-point line for Boston.
Knicks setting the record. You can see it right there. 25 made threes. White and counting. 26 and counting.
And what I love about that play, it's like Tatum popping out from the top of the key to the opposite wing. And then it's actually like the double pin down flows off of Luke setting an initial back screen for Pritchard, right? You can see Luke beckoned to Pritchard. He's like, I'm going to set you a back screen. And I don't know if Pritchard was supposed to set the screen, if that was a design play that they were running, or if Pritchard just decided using his high IQ to go set that screen in the corner for White, and then Luke kind of just follows suit. But I'm going to play that one more time. Just watch Cornette as he kind of directs the play here, being an orchestrator as a screener.
But they've had no answer at guarding that three-point line for Boston.
Knicks in the record. You can see it right there. 25 made threes. White
And counting. 26 and counting.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And what it looks like is they just kind of a recognition of the Knicks, off ball switching and just Luke immediately going right into that screen again. Cause it looked like, Bridges and I don't know if it was Deuce kind of had communicated, stay up and and switch their guys, but Luke's already there on the screen. So it's great. You guys want to switch too late. Screen's already there. Derek White's already popping open.
Right. Yeah. Because the first screen from Pritchard, there's a switch there, as you mentioned, but then Luke is setting the second screen where Jericho Sims is sitting in the middle of the paint, worried about Tatum driving. And on the backside, you have Sam Hauser in the corner. So if that action isn't there for Derek White, Tatum probably just goes dribble handoff with Sam Hauser, or Sam Hauser steps up and sets that screen for, a ghost screen action, whatever they want to do. Or Derek White can come to Jason Tatum and they can go dribble handoff there. Like there's just so much that the Celtics
Too many
can do off of these very basic play constructions. And they all just, to your point earlier about the continuity of the Knicks playing their very first game together, it's going to take them a long time to get that chemistry versus the Celtics, who brought back 13 to 15 players from last year's championship team. And you could see the difference. And Will, I just want to ask you one more time, how do you feel about the New York
Worried
Knicks?
about the Knicks at all? Worried about the Knicks? Huh? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't use the word worried.
I wouldn't use the word worried. I feel like that's got to be the new catchphrase. I wouldn't use the word worried. That's so good. But yeah, I think it's funny. You saw it in both games. It's funny enough, obviously the T-Wolves and Knicks playing on opening night. You saw both of those teams. I don't know if you watched. I didn't watch all of it, but I caught most of the Lakers T-Wolves game. But same thing. Lakers have a lot more continuity on their team, and you saw it, right? Both the T-Wolves and Knicks did not look like the teams that we remember them being a year ago in the playoffs, when those were two of the hotter teams, until injuries for the Knicks came and got them, and then eventually the Luka problem that the Wolves ran into. But both of those teams look like they had a lot to figure out.
Anthony Edwards looked frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and that dude don't hide it. As much as we love the authenticity of Anthony Edwards, his leadership style is not to hide anything. And sometimes, I don't know, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, he was very frustrated in that game. Lakers get the opening night win in the second game of NBA opening night. But for the Celtics, 132-109, they get the win here on opening night. And the other topic that we wanted to hit here, Greg, is I wanted to go to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown did a sit-down interview with Stephen A. Smith in advance of last night's game. Dude, this was a long sit-down. It was over an hour long. It was very well done. Of course, infamously, the state your source, not debate, but I guess tension between Stephen A. Smith and Jaylen Brown dating back to last postseason, in which, and credit to Stephen A. He ran the clip as the cold open. I actually really respected that he ran the clip that they knew they were going to talk about, and he knew he was going to do it, because immediately Jaylen Brown came into this interview, wanted to talk about it, wore the shirt, and said, and basically, controlled the first couple minutes of that conversation of this is where we're starting. And to Stephen A's credit, in the moment, he said, we ran the cold open is exactly what you want to talk about. But I know you had a lot of thoughts on this particular interview. Jaylen's your guy. I think from conversations you and I have had off air, I know that this for you was like resonating of, yes, this is why Jaylen Brown is my fucking guy. And I swore fully just for you.
Thank you. Well, first thing, for our younger listeners out there, if you go into a job interview in the future, or any interview, learn from what Jaylen Brown did with this interview with Stephen A. Smith, where he immediately takes control of that interview and starts asking questions, where he's almost putting the interviewer as the interviewee, right? He starts asking the questions to Stephen A. Smith and takes control of it. And he's just like, you know what? I want to bring this up to you. I have a question for you, because one, it shows that he came in prepared, which Jaylen Brown talks a lot about strategy in this conversation with Stephen A. Smith and how everything that he does is strategized. But like the confidence that it shows, and there's something about taking a page out of Joe Mazzulla's playbook, living in that place of making other people uncomfortable just to see how they react. It just flips the script, and it puts people on their heels. So if you have an interview coming up, watch this clip, watch Jaylen Brown and Stephen A. Smith go through this, and you'll learn a little bit. But I think with Jaylen Brown, the thing that I've always appreciated about him, we've used the word authenticity. He keeps it real, keeps it 100. I just love that how principled he is. One, because I'm not that principled. Like, I wish I could be that principled and just live by like a man has to have a code. I wish I had more of a code.
Yeah, every time, especially when they get to the section of the interview where they're talking about like you didn't sign with Nike or you were with these and you left for this reason. And like I've thought about this at times. I'm like, man, if certain people just were like, hey man, we're gonna give you X amount of dollars, and let's be real, the figure does not need to be that crazy for me to be like, yeah, that's worth it. That helps me and my family right now. Like, sure, like I would say yes without hesitation.
Talk about our guy Freddie. Talking about Papa Gino's and getting sponsored by Papa Gino's. I take free slices of pizza.
Right. Like it's not a high barrier, depending on what we're talking about, to be like, would you want to endorse this for, like you said, not even financial compensation, just food compensation,
just hot cheese and bread. Yeah, but I think
back to your point of integrity.
Yeah, the interview with Stephen A. Smith, if you haven't watched it yet, because maybe you're like, I don't want to watch anything with Stephen A. Stephen A. in his podcast and his interviews is a very different Stephen A. than you see on First Take. And Jaylen addresses that head on. Once again, making Stephen A. uncomfortable. And Stephen A., I think he rolls with the punches really well in this interview. And Jaylen actually says to Stephen A., he's like, listen, I respect you. Like, I don't have any problem with you. Me and you are cool. I have issues with the people that are hiding behind Twitter fingers or hiding behind name sources. And he straight up asked Stephen A. He's like, how do you feel as a man where you have to say certain things on air? Are you still cool? Like when you look in the mirror, when you go home, that you can feel like you're still being true to yourself? Like Stephen A. some hard hitting questions. And he talks about Stephen A., having to play the game, so to sort. And Stephen A. kind of throws it back at Jaylen at one point in the interview. And he's like, listen, my brother, like, have you ever considered that if you want to accomplish the things that you want to, and that you feel like would make a change in your community, that you might have to play the game a little bit to get those corporate sponsors? And Jaylen's like, listen, if I get those corporate sponsors because I sell out a little bit, then I didn't accomplish what I set out to do. The whole point is to use a word that Jaylen doesn't like, to be a disruptor, right? And to flip the status quo and to change the narrative and to have a paradigm shift. That's what Jaylen says throughout this interview. He wants a paradigm shift in the way that corporations influence players and influence youth basketball. Jaylen touches on that at certain points, and shoe companies. And Jaylen just wants people to be able to stand on what they believe in and not have to sell themselves out and not have to wear a suit if they don't want to wear a suit, if that's not who they are. Right. They show up in these meetings, rocking shorts like I'm rocking right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's very different. The spaces that Jaylen Brown is kind of moving into, he wants those spaces to make room for people that look like him and that people that look different from the norm.
And here's the thing. These things can't change until someone starts to do them, and do them in a way that is successful and paves the way for others to be able to do it. Right.
And he might fail.
Right. He might fail, but it might open the door for the next person to be able to do it. And I think that's kind of Jaylen Brown's whole point. It was interesting hearing him and Stephen A. kind of do that, because like even in my own like professional life, I think about some of these things where I'm glad that like I work fully remote, and like I've shifted to like I don't need to wear like I used to work at the University of Texas selling tickets for sporting events like football games and suites and all that stuff, and like we were supposed to wear like suits when we meet up people. I'm like, man, it's fucking 100 degrees out here. I don't fucking wear a suit.
They tried to make you shave your face.
to go, yeah, which I won that battle. I was very proud. I stood on business like Jaylen Brown with that, and I was like, listen, you want me to be the best version of me, you got to leave me with the facial hair. Like, we're not the fucking Yankees here. Like, what are we doing? It's ridiculous. So I was very proud of myself for winning that battle. But it, like, I think about like myself now, and I'm like, if I ever had a job that was like, you have to do this, or like be in these suits and do this to present, I don't want that. Like, I still might do it because, like you said, I'm not as principled as Jaylen Brown. Like, if the paycheck was right and it made sense for me and my family, I would probably still do it. But to Jalen's point, like, I shouldn't have to. I don't think that's, and this is a very small example of what Jaylen is actually doing, in which he's building community and generational wealth for those that have not had the opportunity. Like what Jalen's doing is entirely different from this example, but this is just a way to try to kind of make that connection. And so it's interesting hearing him and Stephen A, because Stephen A does play the game. Stephen A plays the game, but then also takes the game into his own hand. That's what the Stephen A Smith show is, with him being able to control what he wants to. So if he wants to have this sit down with Jaylen Brown for over an hour, talk about whatever they want.
If he wants to talk about butt play, Stephen A can talk about
this is what I was going to say. He's the horniest man on the internet. So he can have the Stephen A Smith show, which is separate from First Take, where he's yelling about the Cowboys and doing all his theatrics that make him $20 million a year, whatever it is. He has this show because he does that. It's basically like actors that do like a Marvel movie, so they can do independent foreign films, so they can choose like those roles, but it's like they have that in the bag. That's what Stephen A Smith does, so that he can come on this show, have a sit down with Jaylen Brown, and then probably tonight talk about which Pokemon has the nicest butt. Like he's just gonna take like random like questions from the audience and start doing.
Have you been
that
thinking
stuff.
about Pokemon butts?
No, but have you seen, dude? Did you see the question Stephen A? When he asks for questions, he answers, I feel like, two types of questions. One, it's about like cartoons he knows nothing about, or like random parts of subculture he knows nothing about, and people ask him to compare Pokemons or Sonic the Hedgehog or Mortal Kombat, and he just, I think he doesn't even know about it, but he like finds a way to talk about it in an entertaining Stephen A Smith way, or he talks about butts and just being horny. So I just combine the two of what I see of all Stephen A Smith clips that are of this show when he asks for fan engagement. But it's kind of like that dichotomy, right? And so I thought this interview was really interesting to see kind of both sides of it. And I think, in my opinion, both of them held up well, like on their perspectives and on how they both go about handling it, as Jaylen Brown said, as a man, not just being a reporter, but as a man, how they go about their business with each of it. And I thought it was really cool because Stephen A Smith, whatever you may think, that man's a heavyweight in this game. And Jaylen Brown stood on business toe to toe with him. And I thought that it was a really good interview, lengthy, but a very good interview.
For sure. Yeah. And, to your point about Stephen A answering questions live on air, if you're watching on YouTube right now and you got some silly questions for me and Will to answer, throw them our way. Maybe we'll answer them right now. Maybe we'll save them for the next pod. But Will, one thing I did want to do to kind of wrap up here. I didn't tell you about this. Okay. Because I wanted to just like throw a new segment at you and just kind of see how you respond to it. But I just wanted to, give the people a little bit more insight to who we are as people. Obviously, they can make their own inferences from our friendship of 34 years or whatever it's been now. But I just have a question for you. Something I was thinking about the other day. If there is one thing that you could do one more time from your childhood as an adult, but you're doing it as an adult, just one more time, and just do it, even if it's something silly, like I wish I could climb to the top of a tree again. What is one more thing from your childhood that you wish you could do as an adult?
Well,
that you'll probably never do again.
Well, I'm afraid of heights, so it's not going to be climbing a tree. One more thing that I could do as an adult. I mean, the first thing I thought about was play Little League Baseball. It was literally the first thing, which as an adult, I mean, that's just, I think, was that movie, like The Benchwarmers, where it's like a 30-year-old man that goes out there and plays. One thing, this is a good question. This wouldn't be my answer, but this also jumped to my head just because I just started watching The Penguin on HBO Max. I was playing catch up because people gave it good reviews, so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. But there's a scene where, are you watching the show by any chance, or?
Yeah, I have not watched the most recent episode, but I am watching the show. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not giving anything away.
About the slush puppies.
100% where I'm going with it. I don't know that would be my answer, but that's up there because when they had the slush puppies and they kind of referenced it, and I kind of assumed it would be something different. But it was like, oh, those are the exact they're talking about the real slush puppies. I used to go to Little Peach, which is now Tedeschi's, or maybe it's actually a 7-Eleven now, right there on Neponset Ave in Dorchester. Like that was a massive highlight, was going to get slush puppies. And so that's probably not the answer, but for now, because I'm struggling to think of what else it would be, and that's just like really jumping to my head, I want to go back and get slush puppies. I haven't seen a slush puppy exist in forever. And so seeing that when the Penguin sits down with Vic to go get that slush puppy in their old neighborhood, I was like, damn, I would really love to go back in time and go to Little Peach and get a slush puppy. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm gonna go with for right now.
The dialogue in that scene is great too, because the Penguin's talking about mixing all the flavors together. He's like, "You ever mix the flavors together? Oh, so much better, right? So much better. You mix flavors together."
What
But
would you do?
so the reason why I thought of it is because I've been doing some workouts with our guy Townsend. Shout out to Townsend, on the Green with Envy men's league team. Is used to coach basketball with me here in Austin, and we've been riding bikes around his neighborhood to get to the hill that we're doing our workouts on. We're doing a workout on like plyometrics on a hill, and I know you can't ride a bike.
It's true. Audience,
it's a lot harder than I remember it being. I'll tell you that. Like my balance is not great.
You mean that old saying doesn't hold up?
No, I still know how to ride a bike, but like when I'm going, so if you're riding on the street and then you got to go onto the sidewalk, like figuring out a way to just like get onto the sidewalk on the ramp, going from 30 miles an hour on a bike to like an electric bike onto the sidewalk, it's kind of scary. But I was thinking about that, and that's why I thought about this question. The thing for me, you mentioned Little League Baseball. My answer is I want to pitch an inning. I just want to feel. I just want to feel the control, feel the ball in my hand one more time. I haven't thrown an inning of baseball probably in over half my life, because I tore the ligament in my shoulder my junior year.
Yeah.
So I never got to pitch varsity. Now I was a pretty good pitcher. I had a really good arm. I played quarterback in high school, and I just was unable to pitch. Even when we played, what was the Legion ball?
Legion baseball,
Legion yeah. When we played Legion, at that point, my arm, I was an outfielder or second baseman at that point, because my arm was so messed up. I had to play first base. I was shortstop, and I had to play first base senior year varsity for Boston Latin School. And I just want one more time to be on the mound, to be in control. I don't want a pitch clock like they have in MLB right now, but I just want to be in control and just be the orchestrator of all things happening around me on the baseball diamond.
It's funny that both of our minds went there to just play in Little League Baseball again. And like a part of it's me is I'm trying to check in on the World Series, which Yankees Dodgers about to happen. By the way, nice to hear that Boston fans, you guys still got it. Yankee suck chant apparently broke out last night at the TD Garden. So like to know that we still got it, because that was a staple of my childhood, is before the Red Sox had actually won the World Series. No matter what event if you went to a public event in Boston, there was like an above 90% chance a Yankee suck chant was going to break out. Doesn't matter if you were, at the Esplanade for the Boston Pops on July 4th, good chance at some point a Yankee suck chant is going to break out. And so I like to know that we still got it. It's that felt good to see that making the rounds last night, that was still going on. But yeah, I think that's part of why my mind jumped to it as well. It's just like watching a little bit more. This is a little bit more baseball, just to feel like, like I mentioned before when we had Cerruti on, like I feel like I gotta watch Ohtani because he's just like so incredibly special. And like if he was happening when I was 11, 12, like my mind would be so blown.
Dude, it's Ichiro on steroids. Think about how popular Ichiro
on steroids, but then he's going to pitch next year. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. And so, yeah, Little League, there's something about Little League that is just very special. And yeah, like you said, pitch one more inning. I think if I could hit one more home run, just that feeling that, and like it's part of even though I'm not good at golf, it's the one, like when you hit a good shot in golf, it's the closest thing I've been able to get to replicating that feel of it's almost like, in baseball, when you hit it on that sweet spot, it's as if the bat's like not even connected to you, right? Like it's so pure, so sweet. And you can get a little bit of that in golf when you hit a nice shot. It's not quite the same. especially when you just take into effect, like, there's someone else who hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. So if you got someone else facing off and you have something so pure, like, it's just an unreal feeling. So that would be my real answer now that we're talking through it here. If I go back and hit one more home run in Little League. But Greg, good question. I like that. Bring that more to the end of our shows here. I like that a lot. Let's keep that going. Good surprise segment. That's going to do it for this episode here of Green with Envy. As we said, this Saturday, come lock in with us. We'll be live on the Bleacher Report app. We will tweet this out, so make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts. We will have this for you. But Saturday, after the Pistons game, that's when you hear from us next. And then typically our recording schedule will be, vaguely about a Monday, Thursday, Monday, Friday type drop, depending on what the Celtics schedule looks like. But that's what we're going to be looking at through most of the season. We'll have a few other episodes mixed in as well. We'll have some more interviews that we'll get lined up throughout the year. But Greg, season's back. We're in full effect. Celtics 1-0. Things are feeling good. Any final thoughts here before we send this out?
Please, if I know it's a Saturday night and stuff, you probably got better stuff to do than to come on Bleacher Report app and chop it up with us. But if you do make it, please drop some positive comments in the chat and let people know, because sometimes on the Bleacher Report app, people don't know who we are. Like y'all lock into us and listen to our podcasts and whatnot. But a lot of times they're just like, who the hell are these two guys? Right. So make sure if you are a Green with Envy fan that you are dropping comments in the chat, shouting out Green with Envy and shouting us out and letting people know that we're not just two, Joe
We're not two
Schmo.
bozos. We've been in this game for a minute.
Yeah. So we're not two jabronis, so to speak. So let the people know.
Hey, Greg, let's do it again. We'll catch you guys later. This has been Green with Envy. Here's a little Black Sheep Optimist. We'll catch you later.
Missed free throw. Horford the rebound. Here's Pritchard. He loves these. Puts it up half court of the buzzer.
Every time I get this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door. You coming to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor. You know I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating your river. I call to see if you open. You know I hope you deliver. Every time you getting close, I still be sick with the shivers. But there's nothing like that first time. I still remember the first time I saw you. You were looking so fine, chill like lo-fi, watch you go by. It was all I could do to say hi. I still remember the first